Welcome back to the Progress Report, and I'm your host, Tom Rourke. The financial services industry is critical to the global economy, often an early adopter of technology, but also an industry that's governed by tight regulation and, in some instances, a certain level of risk aversion. However, I'm delighted to be joined today by two very experienced practitioners from the industry who are actually going to tell us why this is the most exciting time of their careers. Diana Kennedy, who is the Director of Architecture and Engineering at NatWest, and by my good friend and colleague, Ralitsa Nenkova, who is our Global Insurance Lead. So Diana, Ralitsa, you're both very welcome to the Progress Report.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for having me. It's very great to be here.
I'm going to jump straight in, Diana, maybe just to ask you a little bit about your own journey into this world of Agentic AI, but built on a whole load of foundations in architecture and IT.
I really genuinely think it's the best time ever to be in technology, even through my whole career. So I've been a technologist whole career, engineering degree, but worked in enterprise technology, a bit of time in consulting actually, in the financial services sector, but for the last long while leading the design, build and implementation of enterprise scale technology. And that's been in the oil and gas sector, that's been in healthcare, and now in financial services. And I really think with our world of AI and now agentic AI, the foundations of enterprise technology are even more important than ever. Getting our data platforms right, making that data accessible via APIs, building and scaling the end user capabilities for our colleagues and customers to access that data and use those models. And now critically thinking about the skills that we need as an organization and at every level and how we then make AI accessible to our customers in a way that's really meaningful and helpful to them.
I'm sold, but I was actually smiling because I think your introduction is fantastic as a reminder of just the importance of that fundamental architecture and that view, irrespective of the pace and the novelty of how important that is. I would argue that I do think there are still some people who need to be persuaded, but maybe we can help with this discussion. So Ralitsa, you and I have a shared background in insurance. So is this the most exciting time to be in insurance and technology insurance?
Absolutely, yes. And I've never been more inspired actually by how insurance has responded to it and overall financial services, because financial services is built on hindsight, cautiousness, risk management. There were conversations 10 years ago where you couldn't persuade an actuary to do anything unless they had 10 years backdated data. So us moving to proactivity, foresight, immediate insight, actually decision-making by agents, that's a massive leap. And for those that are aware when insurance was born, which was when Lloyd's of London was set, that is very many centuries ago. We haven't changed our operating model since then. And now is the time, and it's really happening and everybody is doing it. So yes, it is the right time, and this industry has never needed it more.
Because I'm smiling because obviously when people talk about financial services and they take banking and insurance together, I always smile and say, well, banking has a facility with risk, whereas insurance is about avoiding it. So here, what you're saying, it really is quite a change. So let me just move a little bit onto the kind of practicalities. And it feels that, there's still a huge amount of conversation at the moment around people with a real anxiety around, are they realizing the benefits from their investments, right? And later we'll talk about how you measure that, but maybe if you could just talk a little bit about NatWest's experience, because it feels as if you've managed to put early scores on the door.
We see AI across three pillars. Firstly, AI for colleagues, and we take that responsibility really seriously, actually. As a UK bank that is very embedded in the UK economy, we process a significant proportion of the UK's payments every day. We bank for the UK government. We bank for the royal family, actually. So very embedded in the success of the UK economy. So therefore, the responsibility that we have, the social responsibility we have to upskill our colleagues, all 60, 70,000 of them, in the use of AI and remove that nervousness and uncertainty is one that we take really seriously. So we've rolled out AI agents and Copilot, Microsoft Copilot stack to every single employee, including all of our frontline workers, including all of our back office agents in India and other parts of the world, really as a means of encouraging them to experiment, to think about their own personal productivity and create those little workflows that are automated, but in a way that perhaps more intelligent than was previously possible. And we've seen really extraordinary adoption, actually. And I think if you create an environment from the top, from CEO downwards, that is really clear, but visionary in terms of the use of AI, I think that's sort of encouraged everybody to participate. The second is AI for customers. We now have a large number. I think we have about 600 AI projects in the bank, over half of which are specifically targeted at our customers and building and improving the customer experience and building new products that are anchored in AI. That shows up through the people that we've hired. So we've hired in the AI research office from Meta. That whole team is now in NatWest, and they're investing and researching in fraud detection, deepfake detection, and a number of other things. And then thirdly, AI for process. So we, of course, see the opportunity for AI to simplify and modernize and reinvent how we do work. And I think that's where NatWest particularly is leading the industry in thinking about AI as a mechanism to reinvent, and not just to compete with the more cloud-native neobanks, but actually to exceed the expectations of our customers and new customers too, in how we can really make those experiences fantastic for your financial well-being, things that are traditionally quite difficult to do or awkward, or you have to phone up or go into a branch or whatever. And I think that's what's the joy of AI right now, is that you can do that. You can have the simplification and the removal of friction, but you can make it awesome.
Yeah, I particularly like that, not just automated, but fantastic. but it is interesting if you think about financial services. You describe phenomenal infectious enthusiasm around all of those things for your customer and your colleagues. But obviously, there's also a context where you don't have complete liberty in terms of the reinvention of processes, because there's a regulatory context, and maybe Ralitsa, because obviously that spans also insurance, that there are both opportunities which we might get to, but also I suspect some moderating factors when it comes to regulation in a regulated industry on AI. So maybe we could talk about that a little.
Actually, the regulators across the globe, not just the UK, are very encouraging of AI adoption right now, because this is the only way we're going to drive customer experience outcomes that we've never seen before, and will maintain growth in the industry given the other challenges in the wider economy. I think the main part around, yes, it's a regulated industry, is what guardrails you put in and how you adopt, and thinking through at the design stage all the controls and guardrails required to prevent any challenges further down the line. So it's a controlled and safe adoption of AI versus experimenting without any particular vision. When you look at the different industries, particularly for insurance, awareness is very high, consensus is there. Adoption is still shallow and a little bit slow. So moving from this POC position to actually adoption at scale and production, which Diana was giving fantastic examples of how NatWest has done that, is still more the exception than the norm. And I think everybody's learning from each other, but we're expecting significant acceleration actually this year. It's the year of agentic AI at enterprise workflow level, not at POC level. The other barrier at the moment to accelerate that adoption is the operating model and people. And maybe we can dive a little bit more into people, because if those two things are unblocked, then really it's unstoppable as to there's no limits of what we can achieve and what difference will make actually to the financial well-being of everybody around the world, which is significantly required given the geopolitical challenges. So that would be my view, that actually regulation is a positive and it gives us the impetus to do it in the right way.
You touched on the people thing, and I was caught by a phrase that you used in an article you wrote with the Kyndryl Institute recently, which is around this idea about hiring people who were wildly competent. It strikes me that actually one of the things that we need to start thinking about is hiring the hirers. In other words, having talent acquisition teams that actually know what to look for. It's more than just giving a specification. There's a conversation needed that I suspect needs to go a bit deeper. Like, are you seeing people from very different disciplines come into NatWest? Or are you guys having to also look at how do you identify those people within your own organization?
So we are absolutely reinventing our hiring process to hire those Renaissance technologists that moves away from the coding tests or the have you passed your Institute of Banking certificate, to be much more around a multi-dimensional sort of interview process and selection process. And that's a very different mindset too. And we're investing very heavily in training, coaching our hiring managers to seek those people out. I think never has a growth mindset been more important than now in this world. And particularly in financial services, when you think about risk management and all of those things, if you're not able to adapt your thinking to a new paradigm, then you can very easily be out of the game really quickly. And the technology is changing so fast, being able to have a bit of courage actually as a leader to adapt that and to lead that and to be a bit raw and open about your own limitations of understanding and your own learning journey, I think itself is a really important part of leadership. But we role model that and say, actually, we don't have the answers either, but doing this course or experimenting with this tool just to sort of make that lifelong learning culture really visible. I think that's really important.
And that role modeling, I presume, expands right across all of the disciplines in the bank and across all of the domains of leadership.
Certainly, yeah.
Absolutely fascinating. There are so many things we could go deep on, but again, Ralitsa, when you're out in the world, is that your experience as you're working with other organizations, or like how are the people beginning to emerge as who are following similar paths to?
What I'm seeing in clients, I think I would probably say that there's two buckets. There's those that have looked at AI literacy top to bottom and bottom up. And there's been a lot of training, rationalization, how they adopt in the organization and the rest. And those are the ones that are really seeing the benefits because it's permeating through the culture and it's part of the strategy. There's those where AI is still seeing as a second bucket as something that technology wants to do, and they haven't necessarily grasped that AI actually permeates the full fabric of the business, and they have a way to go to get their hiring strategy, their talent, etc. And to me, those two buckets will drive the competitive advantage going forward. Those that move relatively rapidly into bucket one, where will really make a difference to the industry. And I think for those that don't invest in this, I mean, there's a lot of consolidation in insurance currently, but we'll see more of that because they won't be able to survive the competitive pressures as such. Because actually, a client said to me, and it's a great quote, AI is not a technology thing. This is not just the next technology as we were deploying software or as we were, when internet was invented. This is something that is becoming part of the fabric of the organization. And those in bucket one that are really progressive, I'm hearing a lot more. 5 different global insurers have said to me in the last month, they are monitoring and measuring their workforce now as number of human employees as well as number of agents, and how they're looking after the agents and developing that IP as well, which is really where we're all heading. And that's, for me, is the fundamental mindset shift that everybody needs to embrace, because otherwise, if you rely continuously just on human power going forward, you will be left out of the race.
One thing I like about NatWest is we have a really clear and a simple set of goals. 1, grow our customer base. 2, simplify the bank, and 3, manage our balance sheet better. And how we do that absolutely is enabled with AI. And I think if you talk to any employee anywhere in the bank, they will be able to say those things, and they would then say, and how we do it, and our values are that we win with customers and we raise the bar, and that culture of performance raising is really entrenched and pervasive in the organisation, which is an amazing thing. However, when you're adopting and embedding a new technology such as this, getting the foundations right are super critical, particularly when you're going faster. So we're investing very heavily in things that perhaps you would less focus on if you were looking at this top down, is obviously the control and the behaviour of agents, and being able to manage that, to measure it, to view that at a sort of dashboard level. the identity of agents. So how do you manage the attestation of the action of an agent back to a human? What does that look like? And how do you make that so? The registry of your agents. So where are you going to put these things before they sort of scale and become embedded in cupboards in the organization that you discover in 10 years' time? So having control over how you register your agents. And so there's a lot in there from a sort of foundational infrastructure point of view to manage a scaled AI adoption. But then the value from the AI projects is exactly as before: productivity, growth, balance sheet management, simplification. Are we simplifying our processes, and can we measure those in the same way as we were previously? Just that we have a new, really fantastic tool in our kit bag now that we didn't have before, and enable us to go faster if we choose to. I mean, you may not want to go faster. You may just want to be more controlled. You may want to be more automated, because then you can free up your people. So I think it is an amazing thing, but the basic discipline doesn't go away.
I like that comment about if you want to go faster. I mean, I was listening to something recently where there are certain contexts where fiction has a purpose, particularly in control. Yeah. And I think that point you make about the visibility of the journey is super useful, because where I was going to ask next was around, lots of people tell their story of success at the end, and it looks fantastic, and everyone says, well, I want that. But the challenge is, well, where did you start? What are those first steps that leadership can take or should be taking now to kind of begin that journey?
I do think winning the hearts and minds of colleagues is really important. So you're democratizing access to AI tooling, like your personal productivity stack, in a safe way that you're encouraged to experiment and try new things, and there's this sort of scaffolding to enable you to do that. It's really, really important. And I think starting with colleagues is a really good place to start. Secondly, as you think about your product as a business, I think it is right to experiment small. I think one of the things that we try to do is to anchor everything back to customer. Of course, that's why we exist, but anchor any change or new feature or adaptation back to what customer outcome is. I think where many organizations perhaps have failed or perhaps not achieved the progress that they've wanted is by just running endless POCs. Yeah. I think it's very easy to run endless POCs. It's much harder to scale in an organization. And if you can take a POC, but make sure you're proving something that is then systemic within the organization, then that's how you win. So that's perhaps where I'd start.
It's AI fluency across the organization, and basically making people comfortable to welcome AI and not see it as a threat to their jobs. And the reality is, things are moving so fast that you have to accept that you're transforming daily, and you have to have the mindset that this is your business. Transformation is ongoing and every day, and you have to continuously challenge yourself. You can't just accept that something that's been thought about a year ago, etc., can still be valid in 12 to 18 months. That's no longer the case. And I think that's another big mindset shift that we need to accept is part of our, or put it another way, transformation is part of BAU now. There's no more BAU in the old sense of the word. And this is where agentic comes in huge value, because the agents are giving you that access to the proactivity and the ideas and the decision making that can happen almost instantly. That was never the case before.
Obviously, we're all partnering in this, in this world. There's a lot more in choosing, but how, when the pace is so fast, when, you must look beyond capabilities. And I was interested, you frequently come back to the word values as you've been talking today. Who do you look for then in terms of, I know you used the word mutuality when we were writing for us recently, but what do you look for in a partner beyond capabilities and solutions in this context?
Well, I would say mutuality. And partners and partnerships in times of transformation like this are more important than ever. And you choose partners not just on the capability that they bring. You choose them because they're aligned to your values, they're aligned to your mission and purpose, and they have an ambition and a set of goals that are aligned, where you can drive mutuality, where there's value to both organizations, where 1 + 1 can equal 3. And we are very purposeful about that, actually. And, clearly the relationship with Kyndryl is a very, very important one for that reason, because we see an alignment on the mission and the goals that you have, and how you think about this transformation is very aligned to ours. And but it's also about having that strength of relationship where you can challenge each other. And that's what partnership is about too, where you can have those difficult conversations where our partners can challenge us, where we can challenge them back. And that too is really important in terms of high performance comes from being able to raise the bar through challenge and peer review and an environment where that's safe to do that, because that's how progress happens. Progress isn't easy. It comes through safe, intentful, mutual challenge, I think, and that's what partnership is about.
Well, as we are coming to our close, I'm going to throw a challenge to both of you. Maybe we'll start with you, Ralitsa. So we kind of opened with that this feels like the most exciting time to be in technology and be in our industry, right? But if this is the progress report. If you look to progress, both 26 and beyond, what would make it an even more exciting environment in your view? What does progress look like for you?
I think for me, success for the industry overall would be that the customers are feeling the difference and they're engaged a lot more with financial services. I've been in this industry for so long, and this is where we've always had a challenge. If you compare to other industries like retail, we just never could get people to get excited about their pension. And actually, the concept of a fantastic retirement is close to everybody's heart, but they were never engaged in the way that the industry tended to approach. So if AI can help us to leap and really genuinely delight the customers to a point where they're thinking about it, it's part of their lifestyle, and they really get excited about their financial well-being, I think this is a huge win. And I genuinely think AI is the first time where that is a genuine opportunity. The second part is that where we've really seen significant improvements to the bottom line in terms of commercial value, which then drives obviously the overall economy, because FSI is massive worldwide. And the third for me, in terms of success, is that we have got everybody on the journey in terms of our workforce and talent, and we have finally really genuinely our industry as FSI where youngsters are keen and excited to join.
I completely agree. Perhaps two things. One, on the personal level, what 2026 looks like. So I'm encouraging my own children to experiment with AI, set them the task of using Claude Code to build an app that measures the vibration sensor on our tumble dryer, so they know when to go and empty the laundry. So 2026 would be fantastic.
Is having them empty the laundry.
Exactly. I love it. Exactly. So, which leads to my second point, which is I'm actually hugely optimistic about the opportunity and value of AI to not just my business, but to communities, to economies, to countries, to help them be lifted out of poverty. And I do genuinely believe that this technology is getting to the point of being so democratized that that's possible. And, if we can all leave this world and have made it a better place, then, I think we should feel very proud of that. And I think being able to lead our organisation in a way that hopefully creates a bit of a shadow that things are possible, and if that inspires even one person to do more with this technology for their own community, then that would be an amazing thing.
Thank you so much for sharing that vision. Certainly it lifted my morning. I just say thank you both very much, Diana and Ralitsa, for joining us here on the Progress Report and giving of your time. Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
That's been a real pleasure. Thank you.